Looking for the best place to shop this Mother's Day? Go with the brand that makes it easy to send something thoughtful to everyone on your list. 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now at 1-800-Flowers, order 1 dozen roses and get another dozen free. More flowers mean more smiles, all backed by the quality, attention to detail, and trusted delivery experience that make 1-800-Flowers my top choice to send something beautiful Mom will love. Make Mom's Day at 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast.
What is going on, everybody? It's Jason and Destiny. Today we are joined by Jim Meskimen. Jim, how are you doing today?
Real good, real good. Nice to join you. Pleasure.
Glad to have you. Pleasure is all ours.
I know IMDb is not always super accurate, but I have to ask, according to IMDb, you were in Fonzie Jumps Over the Shark on Happy Days. Can you tell me what that was like?
Well, yeah, my mother is Marion Ross, who played Mrs. Cunningham, Mrs. C on that show. And I was 17 years old, and I do not recall auditioning. So I feel like this really has the strong aroma of nepotism to me in my recollection. And I wound up on the beach for this 2-part episode of Happy Days that has become this iconic episode about which people comment all the time. It's become one of those catchphrases, jump the shark. And it was fun. You know, I was on the beach for a couple of days, hanging out. And, I was pretty used to hanging out with the cast of Happy Days because of my mother. And so that was nice. And I think by that point, I had worked for Ron Howard as a kind of a gopher on a film that he was doing on his own dime before he became a legit director. Before he even worked for Roger Corman, he was making a film that he had written with Jim Ritz, which starred Donnie Most. And so my mother volunteered me to help out on weekends. And it would have been around that time. If it wasn't right at that time, it was pretty close on that time.
Yeah. I was going to ask, you have, such an incredible Hollywood family history. Is that kind of what got you started in acting?
Well, it exposed me to what the life of a professional actor was. I think a lot, which I consider a strong advantage that I squandered to some degree. But if you're in Ohio and you watch TV or you watch movies and you think, oh, I want to be that, I want to be in that. You only know about, plays and the films that you see. You don't know what the life is. You don't know about, in my case, a single mom raising 2 kids, getting an audition, having to work on it while you are taking care of your kids and cooking dinner and washing the dishes and working on the audition, jumping in your car, driving down to Hollywood in traffic and finding the place and, doing the audition, all those things that are the bread and butter, the real activities of an actor. The being placed on hold, on a veil, and the callbacks, and then maybe you get the job, and then now you've got to find a babysitter because you're going to go to Utah for 2 weeks or whatever. Those things I got exposed to early on.
Yeah,
and also the one thing I've considered very valuable that I definitely put to work for me was what do you do to attract more work? What do you do to keep the career going?
Yeah.
And that's something that, at least when I was a college age person, that wasn't part of the curriculum of most universities. Like, it was all like, well, here's how you memorize Shakespeare and here's how you hold your hand thus. And that's all fine. But, how to manage a career is a whole nother thing.
Yeah. I'd say you have had a pretty good run at that. Over 300 credits. That's such an impressive resume. What has been like your just favorite thing to work on?
My favorite thing to work on.
I know it's like asking who your favorite child is, but
yeah, if I had 300 children. Yeah. I've had a lot of great experiences. It is hard to choose. I mean, I've had some fun ones that were fun for different reasons. I have had even ones that didn't pay all that well, but were fun and challenging. I worked on a movie called Apollo 13 that Ron Howard directed, and that was a great experience because it was a it was a meaningful film. It was like a meaningful story, and I learned a lot. There was a lot of study aspect of it, of like, what is this space program? I'm enjoying working on Landman, recurring on Landman, and each episode I've been on 3, has been completely demanded something completely different from me, and it, a couple times quite challenging. One physically and one, intellectually stimulating and difficult. So, and then The Grinch was amazing. That was a great experience. I loved that. It went on and on and on and on. It was a 4-month shoot for me.
Oh, wow.
It's just an unusual length of time.
Yeah.
And has been rewarding in many ways. And then I've done a lot of live performing, and live performing is great too. So I've stitched together my career. I have a lot of credits because a lot of my jobs have been very, very brief, 1 day or 2 days or one afternoon. You look on sometimes I get on podcasts and they say, so when you were on the Sword Busters 5 video game back in whenever, what was that like? And I'm like, I cannot remember what that was because I'm not a gamer. And it was probably a 2-hour period of my life back in, 1997. So I don't know. But anyway, all that to say that, like a lot of people, you have to be willing to diversify.
Yeah.
And look for opportunities. And that's why I have online courses now on my website in how to maintain a career, how to get a voiceover career going, and even how to do impressions, which I realize I haven't done any impressions at all for you today. I'm sorry. That's a bit of an omission, but we're getting around to it, I'm sure.
Most definitely.
Because I see on here that you voiced JFK quite a few times and Bill Clinton. Like, when did you realize that you could mimic voices as well as you do?
Well, it was when I was in New York getting started, and I was doing a lot of improv. I got in an improv company very early on, and then it became very valuable or helpful to be able to do impressions. And I found like now there's a place for me to deposit these impressions, because I always did them, but there was no flow going particularly. There was no who's going to receive these impressions. I didn't really know. So I had the skill. Then when I got an improv company, it was like, oh, well, we'll if we know you can do all these impressions, we will pull you off the line and, make you that character. And then that will add some value to the whole show. So that was in my 20s. And I learned early on that, well, I just, because of the work I'd done on my own, because of my own interests and whatever talent I have, I just was a little more skilled than others, and that made me realize, well, maybe that's something I should promote and market a little bit, and I did a lot of my work in my early days in New York was voiceover work for radio and television commercials. And quite a bit of it was impressions, or based on different impressions. And I was kind of like the poor man's Burgess Meredith for a while, because he had a very active voiceover career at the end of his life, and so he would do commercials for Honda, and you'd hear his voice, and I would knock him off for other things, for industrials and stuff. So pretty early on, but it took me a while to recognize that, hey, this is really a path that I should concentrate on rather vigorously. I didn't necessarily work in that area that much, but it's always been a good way for me to kind of cut out of the pack or get some attention.
Yeah, you did Robin Williams just a minute ago. Did you get a chance to meet him?
I did. I met him one time in the airport in LAX, and very brief. I could have met him, I suppose, other times, but it just never happened. I was hoping to be to get a couple of times. I had some opportunities where it looked like, oh, maybe you'll get to be in this with Robin, and they never happened. But he, of course, got a big breakthrough on the Happy Days set on my mom's show. Mork from Mork originally comes and visits the Cunninghams. It's sort of like a fever dream, but it happened, and she obviously knew him and worked with him.
What was your first impression that you just learned you could do?
I think the one that I recall as being one where I recognized this is good, this is accurate, was Tiny Tim. If you remember Tiny Tim, you may not know this voice, Destiny, but his name was Herbert Buckingham Curry, and he was an enormous star for a brief time in the 60s, and a very unlikely kind of novelty star who sang in falsetto, and he had a big hit. Tiptoe through the tulips, by the window, by the willow tree, and tiptoe through the tulips with me. And as an 8-year-old boy, I was all over that, because my voice hadn't changed. It was like, this is nothing. And my buddy Eldridge, who lived up the street, he had the album, and we'd listen to it, and I just kind of realized, okay, I'm right. That's, you hear it, and then you hear your own voice, and you go, that's it. That matches up pretty good.
There you go. Yeah. My husband follows you on TikTok and made me promise to tell you that you have the best Tommy Lee Jones of anyone he's ever seen attempt it.
Well, thank you. There's not a whole lot. It's a pretty small club. There's not too many of us that do it. Not many of us have the patience to try to dive deep on Tommy Lee Jones. It's fun. I enjoy it. I admire Tommy Lee Jones. And years ago, I was directing an audiobook for Galaxy Audio called To the Stars by L. Ron Hubbard. And there's a character that's the captain, and he's a very beleaguered, world-weary, old school space captain. And we would do these multicast recordings of the stories, and I played I cast myself as the captain. And I thought, if you're doing a movie of this, Tommy Lee Jones would be perfect. And so Tommy Lee Jones at that time, this is really going back 20 or more years, when we were doing these recordings, he was not the big iconic movie star that was really super well known. Yeah. And I felt like, he was just one of my favorites, and, someone I always enjoyed. And so I worked very hard to try to duplicate for that particular part, to try to get this kind of world weary, wonderful, kind of beat up, sort of disappointed, kind of, facing life with all its curmudgeon-y angst, trying to match that. And I satisfied myself anyway that I came really close. Now I would never, I would never really do that impression for such a big part. You know what I mean? Because it's sort of, I think he gets the way of telling the story. But at the time when it was just like, oh, well, that's just what this guy sounds like, I think it was fine.
So Brent mentioned L. Ron Hubbard. So I got to ask, you were in Battlefield Earth, which we've interviewed the director and one of the writers of the show movie, Roger Christian.
I know Roger. Yeah, great guy.
What was the experience like on that? Because that movie's
I had a wonderful time. I had a wonderful time. It was just like one night in Montreal. I had a very small part, and I have a friendship with John Travolta, and he was lucky. He was nice enough to include me in the cast. And it's been a very beat up movie, but I think it's a good movie. The book is fantastic. I directed the audiobook version, the complete unabridged audiobook version of Battlefield Earth, which is spectacular. And we won an Audie Award for it. And I used amazingly talented voice actors, Corey Burton, Fred Tatasciore, Scott Menville, Nancy Cartwright, the top people. And it turned out great. So it's a wonderful, enduring science fiction yarn that is, it's a very sprawling, big book. I think the actual novel is probably over almost 1,000 pages long. So if there was anything you could say about the movie, is that it was tried to embrace too much in one motion picture.
I haven't seen it, but one of the guys on the podcast likes it a lot.
Yeah, no, there are many things that recommend it. I think it got beat up for other reasons, but it certainly was a noble effort. And someday, I think it's a great story for a extended series, like, geez, television these days, like Isaac Asimov's Foundation series that they have. Is that what it's called? The Foundation, right?
Yeah.
With Jared Harris. That kind of reminds me of the scale of it, and that could be done now very inexpensively. So
yeah,
I hope someday someone will do a 20-parter or something of Battlefield Earth, and then it'll be fantastic.
I have to ask, as a fan who grew up on it, you not only did voices for, but you helped design the Thundercats series.
I did.
I mean, what led you to that? That's so exciting.
When I first came to New York, I was coming off of being a college student, and I was coming off of being mainly a painting student, fine art. I did plays because I couldn't stay away from the stage, but I didn't really study theater. I did a little bit, but I mostly just did plays and studied painting and drawing and printmaking and sculpture. So I wanted to get trained as a visual artist, and I found a really great teacher finally. And I lived in Spain for a while and studied with him.
Oh, wow.
So I came to New York out of that. And so my go-to sort of day job excursions were looking for work as a cartoonist, illustrator, sculptor, artist guy. So I didn't wait tables, and I didn't have to do any of the other kind of disagreeable tasks that most people start with in New York City. I got to draw and paint, and for different companies. I worked for King Features Syndicate, doing a lot of stuff in their licensing department, drawing Popeye and Betty Boop and things like that. Their characters. Awesome. My wife helped me with that too as well. And then I got a call to come and interview with Jules Bass of Rankin Bass. And I met him, and he said, "Look, we're doing this series, and we've got the main characters already, but we're looking for some help." And I showed them some work, and they hired me eventually to do character design for all the secondary characters, the guest star characters, and vehicles, and weapons, and animals, and strange vegetation, anything that needed designing. I was in charge of. And we had one designer, that was me, and it was in New York City. And then everything else was sent over on this device called the fax machine to the Pacific Rim, where the studio was, where the real hard work was done, and the animators made that show happen.
That's incredible. Also, I'll show how young I am for a minute. I also grew up on Mary-Kate and Ashley movies, and you played their dad in Our Lips Are Sealed.
Yes, I did.
What was it like working with them and working on that set?
That was great. I don't remember. I recently thought about this because that's a while ago. Yeah. It's wow. It's probably 1990, 98, 99, something like that. And my daughter was about 10. So maybe it was 2000 or just before. And she was a Mary-Kate and Ashley fan too. And I got this call that I don't think I auditioned for it. I think Bryan Cranston was supposed to play this part and could not do it or did not want to do it. So I got the call, and go to Australia and work on this movie for a week. And I was so excited to tell my wife and daughter about it. Because then it was like, well, you got to come with me, and they're like, it was very exciting. And flew to Australia, which is its own kind of punishment. And but it was a lot of fun. I like, the girls were at that time like 13, 14 years old. Yeah. And, they had been doing these movies for a little while. I recently ran into the director. I hadn't seen him in years. We were at a coffee shop, and he came up and said, "Hey, it's me, it's Craig." And we remembered that they'd been doing these for a while, and they had a pretty sweet deal. They were making a lot of dough. And my impression was that they were like really bored. They were two bored 14-year-old girls. And if there had been iPhones at the time, they would have been all over them. But instead, they were just kind of hanging off one another and waiting around, and they couldn't do anything wrong because all they had to do was be Mary-Kate and Ashley,
right?
In these scenarios that I got the impression that maybe they would go, "Where do you want to go?" "I don't know. Let's go to Paris." "Okay. Will you write us a script about Paris?" "Sure." "Okay." And then they would go and do a movie there. So Australia was a fantastic experience. I've since been to Australia many times, and I really like it there, and I love the people, and I've been to Sydney and Melbourne and Adelaide and up to Hamilton Island and the Great Barrier Reef, and it's just a great place to go. And I had fun with the role. It was fun, and every now and then,
it's a very fun movie. Yeah,
it's a very fun movie, very sweet movie, and yeah, I enjoyed it.
Well, you worked on Family Guy actually as the voice of Ron Howard in an episode, and you did the Orville. What was it like working on Seth MacFarlane's projects?
Well, yeah, I did Ron Howard's voice, and I know Ron's voice pretty well. So, and I wanted to make sure though, when they got me the script, they were like, will you do this? And I'm like, well, let me look at the script. I know your show is kind of, it can be kind of crass, and I didn't want to do anything that would be offensive to Ron because he's obviously a very important part of my life.
Right.
And it was just a cute joke that did not. He was.
Yeah, you never know with his stuff.
Yeah, you never know. I'm always very careful. But it wasn't at the expense of Ron, so I did that, and that was again like an afternoon. I probably did it here in this room. I don't know. I might have done it right here in my booth. I can't recall, but working on the Orville, they were. It was one of these alien creatures. Forgive me for not knowing the name of the race of this alien creature, but maybe you do. I don't know.
I do not. It's like almost impossible to remember the races of.
Yeah,
there's so yeah.
When you get spread across Paramount Plus and all these different platforms, like, wait a minute, there's a big universe out there. Anyway, it was an alien creature, soldier of some kind, a commander, and for some reason they didn't want to use the voice of the actor who had done it on the day, so I was essentially looping his voice, which is fine, and I auditioned for it. I remember getting a script and go, okay, and they liked what I did, and then they said, okay, well, you'll go up to Seth's to record. And I went, go up to Seth's house? And then they said, yeah, you go up to his house. Okay, all right. And then, so I drove up into the Hollywood Hills and this enormous mansion with a beautiful view, and went into his little area, and he was like, hey, Jim. I'm like, oh, hi. And then went into his booth and recorded it, and desperately wanted to wander around the grounds, but that was not invited to do so. So although I think he has parties and things and invites people up there, but I've not been able to do that.
Well, you work for another animated icon, which is the creator of Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, Mike Judge.
Yes. How was that like getting involved? Because you were in the second movie and the new rebooted series, which the rebooted series is fantastic. But what was that experience like?
I enjoy it. I had a kind of a funny attitude, or maybe a predictable attitude about Beavis and Butthead, that it was like really, bottom of the barrel kind of entertainment. But when I watch it, it's quite funny, and it is in no way advocating being the kind of person that Beavis and Butthead are.
No, quite the opposite.
It's quite the opposite. It's really holding the mirror up to an unnatural nature and showing how awful they are. So I usually play some scandalized adult going, "What are you doing? Wait, no, don't do that." These responding to whatever idiocy that they're doing, or a cop, or I think in the new rebooted series, I'm most often a chief of police or something like that. And in the movie, I played a kind of an Ed Harris character in Beavis and Butthead Save the Universe, or Do the Universe. What is it? Yeah,
Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe.
Yeah. And it's funny, I didn't remember it all that well because, again, I probably did it here in the booth over the pandemic, and I was on Zoom with Mike Judge and with a couple other guys, and we worked for an hour or so, and then they invited me to the screening. And I was amazed that because I remembered so little about it. I was like, oh, I have a really big part in this show. My character is really kind of key here. And so I enjoyed it. But I found that the net effect of watching that much Beavis and Butthead in one sitting, I didn't feel like I was prepared to drive away. I had to sit in my car for a little while and wait for my IQ to reset, and then I could grab the wheel and safely get home. So, it's something about certain forms of entertainment. Some are very inspiring and uplifting. Some give you brilliant ideas. Some make you feel a certain way or make you appreciate some part of life. Beavis and Butthead makes you feel a little bit stupider.
It's kind of, yeah, I mean, that's not wrong. So you've done Ron Howard, you've done Tommy Lee Jones since we've had you on the show, and those are not impressions that a lot of people do. Like, do you have an obscure impression that you do that, like, what do you think your most obscure impression is?
Oh, well, I mean, there are people from my past that nobody necessarily knows, teachers. And I find that in my experience, when I am captivated by a person, I study them, and I haven't wanted to figure out how that personality is. I mean, that's what acting is, right? You're pretending to be another person, and there's certain people that just kind of go, what is it like to be that? I like that. Something about it, tickles you. And I had a professor of art history when I was in university. His name was Jasper Rose, who was a tremendously inspiring fellow. And I took class after class with him. I took 5 courses with him because he had just a magnificent personality. And he was really British. But he was also kind of an expatriate Brit in Northern California. So he had long gray hair and a tweed jacket and jeans and Birkenstock shoes. He was this wonderful hybrid. And, and he'd be very, very passionate and opinionated and stuttery a little bit. And there were just all these aspects of his personality that were great. And I've taken that character now in subsequent years. I've taken a lot of what I gleaned from him. He's passed away, unfortunately, but I lived a good long life. And I've created my own character, who's a British art historian. Does not have long gray hair, but and I had some special teeth made that are a little wonky and tea-stained teeth. And I've made lots and lots of videos with this character because for me, having studied and absorbed this fellow, Jasper Rose, so avidly for so long, it's very easy for me to just become that guy and talk about anything. And it's a nice vacation. I think everybody should have an alternate identity that they can dip into from time to time and just kind of leave all your other baggage behind and take on a completely new point of view.
Do you study up like on the people that you do impressions of, like, or is it like you hear this voice and you're like, I want to imitate that? Or do you really like kind of dive in and really study the voice and all the little ticks that make it unique?
It depends. If it's something that I'm personally very invested in, then I will expose myself a lot, and I'll just study and observe and try to capture things like, and often it's just for my own interest. My own interest is I think if I have any talent at all, it has emerged out of just strong interest in different people. For example, I was very interested, still to this day, in Christoph Waltz, the great Austrian actor who's walked away with 2 little golden men from the very generous beneficence of the Academy. And I like to see what are the ways he pronounces different things and why is his voice so attractive like that? And but nobody's asked me to do that. I just like to do it. Now, conversely, I do get requests from my agents and other clients to, hey, can you do this? And often it's someone I've never heard of before because there's a lot of, new actors all the time. And there's a very practical reason, which for movies and TV, sometimes they have to replace a person's performance or add to it or correct it, and that person is not available. And so they'll go out and reach out to the community of voice actors, sound-alike actors, and impressionists to try to duplicate that. This is something that probably is going to be swept up very handily by AI, but for now there is still request for it. And in that case, I will listen to some recording of an actor, and I can tell pretty fast if I'm a good candidate for it, because I can sort of tell what the placement is, and do I know that accent, and then it's interesting because you think, okay, this is good. I think I'm really good at doing this, and I'll record my audition. I'll send it off with every expectation that whoever's on the receiving end will go, wow, that's it. That's great. But people hear things the way they hear them too, and there's a little bit of alteration or. So I don't work as often as I think I should.
Do you have a favorite that's like your personal favorite impression to do?
Well, I like Patrick Stewart a lot because I like Patrick Stewart, and there's something marvelously convivial about him. And, he's enjoyed such a wonderful career. And we look alike. And any day now we're going to run into each other or be at the same sort of affair, party, or whatever. And that will be a sign of tremendous restraint if I cannot perform my version of Sir Pat to Sir Pat.
Have you done an impression of somebody to them?
Rarely. I sort of had established a policy that I wouldn't do such a thing, but I have subsequently seen impressionists do that to the people, and they seem to be having a good time. So I guess it depends on the venue. Like if it's in front of everybody, like on a red carpet or at an event or something, and there's it's presented in a way that's like, well, this will be amusing, and it's sort of a tribute in some way, then I would do it. But just meeting them on the street, as I did with Sam Elliott one time. I happened to meet Sam Elliott in a recording studio, and for some unforgivable reason, I just dived into my Sam Elliott. And he was very gracious about it, but I felt embarrassed later on.
Well, I got to ask, because Landman is one of my favorite shows currently on television. Speaking of Sam Elliott, did you get a chance to do a scene with Sam Elliott or Billy Bob in the show? I can't remember.
I've done 3 scenes with Billy Bob and Demi Moore. Yeah. I've not worked with Sam yet.
Okay. Hopefully
will in season 3.
What's it like working with Billy Bob, though? He's one of my favorite actors. That guy is so funny.
Mine too. I have to say, I was, I've seen a lot of his work over the years, but it was a show called Goliath that made me realize, wow, he's really, I have an idea how tough that is, what he's doing, and it's formidable. So I was like really looking forward to it. I auditioned, got the role, and I knew I was going to work with him. But I was like, I don't know what is he really like, and I asked around, but I didn't get any strong feelings one way or the other. But I found he was very friendly. He immediately was very forthcoming and friendly to me. The first episode we did was in season 1, the last episode of season 1, and he invited me into his little area where he was hanging out on the set, and he said, the first thing he said to me was, "So I hear you do impressions." And I dragged out a lot of my old school impressions that I thought he would enjoy, and spent some time together. And then I came back for season 2 and did an episode or two, one of which where he had to kind of attack me and in a restaurant and hit me over the head with a bottle and slam me against the wall. And
do you remember that?
Do I remember it?
No, I said I do remember that.
You do remember that? I barely remember it. But yeah, that was interesting. I mean, I have my career has not been composed of a lot of physical stunt work and stuff, so this was really a standout for me, and it was really super fun. I had a good time, and very professional to work with, and so he's just a very honest actor. I would say he's intelligent. He's honest. It's a character that's written for him very, very well by Taylor Sheridan.
He is one of those. he's one of those rare actors that can take a very serious scene, but still make you laugh without taking you out of the scene. And that's not something that happens very often.
You're absolutely right, Jason. Yeah, absolutely right. And I'm delighted that the show is so popular, and I'm delighted that it's so enjoyable. I mean, my family, we watch it together, and it is, kind of racy and kind of violent and so forth. But like you say, it's serious and funny at the same time, and there's a reality to it. I mean, it's not totally authentic, but it captures a little bit of, I think, the kind of the Breaking Bad vibe, but with a little more accessible kind of emotional landscape, I would say. I wouldn't mind hanging out with Tommy.
No, Tommy has more of a humanity than Walter White had, especially towards the
Walter
end.
White became a complete psychopath, and that not happened to Tommy. But there's something about the flavor of Landman, and maybe it's just the palette, the desert palette, and the kind of characters, the cartel guys, and all this sort of high stakes masculine activity that goes on. That's sort of similar, but anyway. But I wouldn't watch Breaking Bad with my daughter and my wife.
Yeah.
Necessarily.
Speaking of daughters, I have two who watch Storybots. What was that? You got to do that. Your wife was also a voice in that, correct? Did you all get to record together?
My wife and my daughter. Yeah, I think we recorded right here in the booth. And my daughter and I have recorded down at the studio in Santa Monica, where they used to, Mick Fleetwood's studio down in Santa Monica. We've known the guys, the creators of the Storybots, Greg and Evan Spirit Ellis, for a good long time. We met them through a friend of mine, and when they were just getting started, they were doing crazy little projects for this new thing called YouTube. And so I've been, invested in their projects for quite some time. And Storybots is, as you know, is like just a great show for kids.
Yeah.
Because it is educational. It's so educational that we as grown-ups learned things working on the show, because they'd be a show about how do cell phones work? How do toilets work? What's the sewage system like? What about volcanoes and all these things that, where does rain come from? And, you think, but if you really have to explain it, all the steps of it is like, I'm not sure how this works.
Yeah.
So they impart that information with songs, with comedy, with claymation, with all these different ways of telling stories that they're experts at. And the net result is just a swell experience that is a legitimate learning experience. And I think it's really a perfect example of how TV can actually be utilized to help people.
Definitely. Yeah, it's one of the few that they were like, let's watch this. And once we started, I was like, oh, we can watch all of this.
Yeah.
Like, this is great. It's so good for y'all, and it doesn't make me want to pull my hair out.
Oh, yeah. No, it's unlike Beavis and Butthead. You come out at the other end of it feeling kind of, I think
you feel
I'm
better.
I'm a little more stable now.
I learned something. I'm smarter today.
I'm smart today. And let me tell you about it. It's like this. Yeah.
Tell you where rain comes from, guys.
And they're very demanding on the voice actors. I have to say these guys, Greg and Evan Spirit Ellis, they're brothers. And the benefit of working with brothers is you're kind of working with one person. It looks like a committee, but it's really just one. They've got a very focused viewpoint. The hard part is that they've got the performances they want already in their mind. And it's your job to match that. And they've got very energetic minds. So the performances that they squeeze out of us actors is like, full on! It's really big.
Yeah, definitely. Earlier you had mentioned your website and how you do classes and help people with voice acting and all. Where can people go to find that and get started with you?
Well, I think it's right on my little thing there. It says jimmeskimen.com/welcome.
Perfect.
Find out all about it. Join my community. I've got online courses. I do private coaching as well for people that want it. And there's a lot of stuff there. There's clips from things I've worked on in animation and movies and television. There's Landman clips on there, and there's a cartoon contest. There's all kinds of fun stuff. We've made it as entertaining as possible.
Love
Jim,
it.
I could talk to you all day, and I know Destiny could too. Where can everybody find you online?
Well, on Instagram, I'm at Jimpressions, and I'm on TikTok. I think it's Jim Ross Meskimen. It gets complicated there, and Facebook, and but the best way, go to my website, jimmeskimen.com. Super simple.
Awesome, guys. I will put the link down below in the description. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you, Jim.